Welcome to the Lawyerist Podcast with Sam Glover and Aaron Street. Each week, Lawyerist brings you advice and interviews to help you build a more successful law practice in today's challenging and constantly changing legal market. And now, here are Sam and Aaron.
Hi, I'm Sam Glover.
And I'm Aaron Street, and this is episode 156 of the Lawyerist Podcast, part of the Legal Talk Network. Today, we're talking with Gyi Tsakalakis and Kelly Street about how to improve your marketing in 2018.
Today's podcast is sponsored by FreshBooks, Ruby Receptionists, and LawPay. We appreciate their support, and we'll tell you more about them later in the show.
So, our guest today is my wife, and I feel like I have some sort of conflict of interest about doing an intro to such an episode.
You do and you don't. But this episode is all about her. So,
are there conflicts of interest between podcast hosts and podcast guests?
I don't know. Probably. Yeah,
okay.
Probably. But she got on the podcast on her own merits. So,
see, that's the part that's easy to say.
But nobody needs to believe me on that one, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So.
Can I assure people I had nothing to do with it? Did I have nothing to do with it?
You had nothing to do with it. So I'll talk about what we're going to talk about this time. Gyi and Kelly are going to talk about two concrete things that you can do this year to improve your marketing. But the question that everyone is going to have in the back of their minds is, does it work? Which is what lawyers love to ask about everything. Does it work? And so I think it's time to reiterate one of our soapbox mantras, which is, I don't know. The answer is in the data. So Aaron, how do you think about data when it comes to the question of how does it work or does it work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this common theme among lots of business people and even weirdly among lots of marketers of asking, does a particular marketing technique work or not? And the decision on whether or not something is working often in these cases is about kind of either gut feel or perception or whether it got clients, but isn't about tracking conversion rates and data and ROI. And I think building a system for data-driven marketing is probably the lowest hanging fruit for almost all small firm lawyers to improve their marketing. And what that means is a couple of different things. One is tracking all of your activities, tracking how people are getting either to your website or calling you on the phone and where they came from. And there are different techniques for that. Call tracked numbers, asking people how they heard about you, etc. And then tracking the conversion rate of those people contacting you on your website, on the phone, to becoming clients. And then if you build that as a tracking system, either in a formal marketing tool or just in a spreadsheet, you can then backtrack to test which things are working and which things aren't.
Yeah, what's frustrating for me, every time I see a lawyer ask that question, it's, does it work? And what they're asking is, did it work for anyone else? But what they're missing is, will it work for me? And the only way to answer that is to try it and test it and figure out what the results are and then do it. And to try it for real. Like, the other piece of it that frustrates me is when somebody posts, will this work for me or does it work? The answer is usually, oh, I tried it for a few days and it didn't work. Or I tried it for a week and I got nothing out of it. Or I spent $500 and I didn't get anything. And the thing is, none of that means anything. It's just out of context for that lawyer. It's, did you learn how to do it properly and implement it well and track it, and the data still meant it didn't work? And then how relevant are your results to the results that I might expect for my firm? Because are we anything alike at all? And so as Gary Vee likes to shout from the stage, everything fucking works.
Yep.
It just may not work for you.
It just might not work for you, or it might not work given the techniques you use to use it, right? So right now, I'm a really big proponent of testing Facebook ads, which is not boosting Facebook posts or trying to get likes to your page. It's just buying ads on Facebook. And I think savvy users of Facebook ads can get leads and law firm clients at really, really underpriced rates right now. But you have to use it right. And I don't have the answer for you on how to use it right. You both need to spend some time to learn how other people in your practice area or jurisdiction are using it, and then you need to test things using data.
Well, I think that's a really good jumping off point for, first, a brief sponsored interview with Bin Ree of Smokeball about KPIs and using data in your practice, and then we'll talk with Gyi and Kelly.
Hi, I'm Ben Ree. I'm the product marketing manager and general counsel at Smokeball. And Smokeball is a complete legal practice management solution for small law firms. And firms that use Smokeball are empowered to get back to their passion and focus their energies on helping people and their clients, and not to get bogged down on the administrative and non-billable tasks that many firms experience.
Thanks for being with us today, Ben. So you've got a white paper coming out about small firm KPIs. And although more and more people are starting to understand what KPIs are and why they can be important, I think we should probably start by explaining that. What are they and why do they matter?
Sure. KPIs, it is trendy. It's a buzzword these days with small law firms. And KPI stands for Key Performance Indicators. And really, KPIs is basically a measurable value that shows you how effectively your law firm is achieving its goals. Another synonym for KPIs might be metrics or even business intelligence.
Measurables, things like that, yeah.
So really, no matter what you call it, it's really measuring how your firm's health is or how your firm is performing.
So give us an example of a key performance indicator that law firms should be tracking and like what it means, what they can do with it, what it tells them, and how they can take action on it.
Of course, sure. One of the basic things that every firm should be tracking is how many new clients they have each month, quarter, or even over a year. I mean, without new clients, there's no firm or no business really. Mm-hmm. So the reason you want to track new clients, and you want to track not only how many you're getting, but where they're coming from and what types of cases they're bringing in. So if you're a small law firm that practices pretty much anything that walks in the door, such as a general practice, you want to see if you're getting more divorce cases at certain times of the month. Maybe it's real estate transactions. And then you also want to be able to track that information along with your profitability, and see, is it more profitable to do divorce cases over real estate buyers and sellers?
I think that's an interesting example because somebody who ostensibly is a general practice that takes whatever comes in the door may end up finding that they're not as general as they think, and that it might pay off for them to just focus on a couple areas of practice, but you won't know that until you actually sit down and start looking at the information.
Yes, that's an incredible thing that a lot of our clients have realized. They thought they were a real estate firm, but then they saw that they're really getting a lot of business incorporations or LLC type of clients, or they're even doing estate planning. And something that they never planned to do, but that happens to be their cash cow.
Yeah, it seems crazy that you wouldn't just notice that, but it does happen all the time. So Ben, how do you keep track of KPIs? I mean, it feels like potentially a lot of work to gather this data and report on it regularly and all that kind of stuff. Is there an easy way to do it that you can do just on paper or with spreadsheets? Is there a best practice? How should people do it?
Sure, that is one of the biggest obstacles for doing KPIs is collecting the data. And it is very difficult because it can be manual. So one of the first things that we focus on and to tell attorneys to do is track their time and activities, regardless of whether they bill hourly, fixed or flat fee, or even on contingency. They have to know how they're spending every minute of their day. Now we do, the best practice is contemporaneous timekeeping, where you keep track of the time, what it's for, as you're doing the tasks. But, reality is a lot of people reconstruct their time at the end of the week or month. But the best practice is to keep track of it either using a spreadsheet or paper or using certain, systems like Smokeball.
Well, and so what makes Smokeball easier about that?
Well, if you work through Smokeball, because it is a practice management system, we're able to actually track everything that you do with absolutely no user interaction. So if you start an email from Smokeball, we can track how long you've been in the email and that you're editing it. And let's say you walk away from the email for more than 30 seconds, we actually stop a timer. And then when you get back to it, we'll record that time again and then have it automatically put it into your case. And that's all done without even doing any work on your end.
Gotcha. So if listeners would like to learn more about KPIs, what they are, how to implement them, and especially how they work with Smokeball, you can go to smokeball.com/KPI. You can also call 855-668-3206 for more information about Smokeball. Ben, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Street, Marketing Director at AttorneySync, and I've been in the marketing industry for around 9 years, but I'm really excited to have joined the exclusive legal marketing world over the last few months.
And I'm Gyi Tsakalakis, and first and foremost, a huge fan of Lawyerist, also the founder of AttorneySync and a former lawyer, and I help lawyers put their best foot forward online.
Hi, Gyi and Kelly. Thanks for being on the podcast today. And full disclosure, I should say that one of the other owners of Lawyerist has the good fortune to have married Kelly, who is a marketing and sales genius that we're having on the podcast. So, for what that's worth now, all of our listeners know. So, Gyi and Kelly, we're going to try and give our listeners 2 concrete marketing activities that they can do. And if they complete them in 2018, they will move their practice forward. What's number 1?
First and foremost, you need to claim your Google My Business account. So that means signing up for Google My Business, completing your listing, and then, of course, managing it. You're going to want to do this because it allows you to show up for searches and to be in the local search pack.
So Google My Business, it is so awkward to talk about that.
Right.
Claiming my Google My Business profile. Where do I even go to do that? What is that?
You can just go to google.com/business. Google's changed the name of this kind of brick and mortar local offering.
Like 7 times,
as Kelly
right?
mentioned, yeah. Like in fact, I was just looking at some old posts that we talked about this in the past, and it's gone through so many iterations. But Google knows that their users want to find local businesses and local business information, and they want to serve that up. And so that's why it's so important is that, if you search on your name, if you search on your firm's name, no matter how people hear about you when they go to look you up online, it's likely that Google's going to give prominence to this Google My Business listing. And so really, really important that you completely fill it out. Make sure you get all of your categories correct. I typically recommend people pick their primary category. This is one of the areas where the Google world doesn't match the real world. Attorneys that practice in multiple practice areas will try to fill out all the categories, but it tends to have a dilutive effect. So pick one category, make sure all the detailed information's got to be right. You want that to be consistent. Yeah, I think that's kind of a no-brainer if you haven't done it at this point. It's free, simple to set up, but really spend some time thoroughly filling out, add images. Don't just fill it out halfway. Get it verified, get it right.
So I listened to the first episode of your podcast, and hey, I skipped right over this, but back up. Congratulations on launching your own podcast.
Oh,
yes, we're so excited.
So I've listened to the first episode, which will be out by the time this podcast airs, but I got a sneak peek. The podcast is called Clienting. And I understand from listening, Gyi, that you just sort of walk around town Googling lawyers, practice areas and things and try to see what pops up. And you've experienced that on opposite sides of the street, you will get different search results primarily because of Google My Business listings, right?
Yeah, it's definitely the Google My Business listings are where are showing up. The reasons why I'm getting different ones is, because Google really is getting good at knowing where we are, what we're doing online through a variety of ways, but that's a conversation for another day. But again, your next clients will expect to be able to find information about you online, and Google My Business, if for those clients and prospective clients that go to Google My Business is where it's at. That's what's going to show up. You're going to see testimonials there. You're going to see driving directions. You're going to see imagery. Eventually, I think Google's going to add video. And the other thing I always like to say too is when you're thinking about prioritizing stuff, especially when it comes to online marketing, go to where the platforms are investing. And Google My Business is a place that Google has rolled out a whole bunch of new updates recently. So it's likely that, when they're committed to something, they're going to give it prominence. And right now, this is the place to be for small businesses online, including law firms.
So guys, one of the things that always comes up for me when I think about this is proximity is not necessarily relevant when people are searching for lawyers, right? I don't actually care if I'm hiring an IP lawyer. Actually, I don't even care if I'm hiring an IP lawyer in my state. But Google My Business is set up on the assumption that it does matter. And is that why we should claim it? Is even if you don't think proximity matters, Google does. And so if you want to show up in listings, you should be taking advantage of that. Is that the strategy?
Well, I think actually, Sam, you might be in the minority there for not caring about where your lawyer is located, because most people do. Most people, when they are searching for a service or, service as a lawyer, they will go with the lawyer that's closest to them. They'll look at reviews, they'll look at all their information. But first and foremost, people want a lawyer who is close to them, easy for them to get to, and they don't have to worry about driving across town or into a different area that's unfamiliar for them.
So you've said that that listing has room for photographs and all that kind of stuff. I assume that A, Google probably does care if you have a more robust listing than if you don't. But B, clients obviously care. If they can see pictures of the firm or your lawyers or both, they might be. So is this a great time to finally hire a professional to take some pictures of your firm and your team?
Yeah, that time is long past. Yes, you should definitely have pictures. And you know what, again, professional, sure. But I even tend to think, production quality, good production quality of the photos, absolutely. Good lighting, sure. But I think some of the candid photos, some of just kind of the around the office photos, some of the more effective ones, if you've got clients who are willing to do it, that show you interacting with clients, showing some emotion, even because some of these practice areas clients are dealing with some really emotional life issues when dealing with a lawyer, and so letting some of that show through in the imagery and the pictures and the videos that you use, I think, is extremely powerful. And Google My Business is definitely a place to be doing that. Yeah. So I think the other thing too is that I like to say to lawyers is don't get so mired down with like having to find a professional photographer. The phones are amazing. The cameras on the phones are amazing. Go read a blog post about setting up lighting. Take a picture.
And yet people take such shitty pictures with them.
I know it. It's crazy. But I don't want people to feel like they've got like paralysis, that they've got to like do all this scheduling and yada yada machinery for photos. Go take a picture. I mean, you go look, and so there's kind of like best, good, horrible. Best, take some professional pictures, some candids around the office. Good, a step back, use your iPhone. But, people are so inclined to put like their logos everywhere. People want to they want to see the lawyers. They're hiring the lawyer. Mm-hmm. They're interacting with the lawyer. The lawyer's going to be the shoulder they're going to be crying on when they're dealing with these serious issues. No one cares about the logo.
Kelly, I've seen you take some beautiful pictures. Do you have tips for getting good results out of an iPhone or an Android, whatever, out of a smartphone camera?
Yeah, a few. So I do have an iPhone, and I really prefer it for the photos, although I've heard the Google phone is amazing for photos. But take your time, set up a shot. Make sure the background is great. Make sure that you have enough light is really important. So turning on lights, turning on extra lamps, and then also being aware of what you're wearing and what you have around your office as well. If somebody's taking a photo of you at your desk and you have papers out on your desk, just make sure that if somebody were to zoom in, they wouldn't see any inappropriate information on the desk or on your computer. There have been some interesting situations where people have either shared a screenshot or had their computer open and people zoomed into their browser to see what was up on their browser, and they saw some things that they maybe wouldn't want to share publicly.
One thing I've noticed is people usually take photos from too far away, and getting in tighter can be a really good thing. And I'm thinking of, we run this How Lawyers Work series, and we ask lawyers to take pictures of their offices. And Lindsay's amazing at giving them tips and things. Also, empty offices look really sad.
Yes.
If you can, put pictures in them, and then use the magic wand tool on your camera's, editor. Like, don't go crazy with like Instagram filters, but like, try that magic wand tool to just brighten up the picture and balance the colors and the exposure a little bit, because it usually makes your photo better and more lively, and it will look better on your profile.
And if you have an iPhone X, use portrait mode and you can automatically blur out the background.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's great. And it zooms in a bit. So you're less likely to have that problem with having like a far away photo with no real focal point and empty of people.
Yeah.
So
iPhone affiliate link.
There you go. So we need to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be back in a few minutes to talk about thing number 2, how to create a system for collecting client feedback. We'll be right back.
Being a self-employed lawyer is hard enough, which is why dealing with your day-to-day paperwork on top of it all shouldn't have to be. FreshBooks makes ridiculously easy-to-use cloud-based time and billing software that will help you work smarter, get paid faster, and become more organized. With FreshBooks invoicing, you can create and send polished professional invoices effortlessly in mere seconds. FreshBooks can set you up to receive payments online, which can seriously improve how quickly you get paid. You can track your time either by using their mobile app or your desktop, meaning you'll always know what work you did, when you did it, and who you did it for. There's also a super handy deposit feature so you can invoice for a payment up front when you're kicking off a project. To feel the full impact of how FreshBooks can change the way you deal with your paperwork, FreshBooks is offering our listeners a 30-day free trial. To claim it, just go to freshbooks.com/lawyerist and enter lawyerist in the How Did You Hear About Us section.
Ruby Receptionist is a live, remote receptionist service that is dedicated to helping lawyers win clients and build trust one happy caller at a time. From their offices in Portland, Oregon, Ruby's friendly, professional receptionists ensure exceptional client experiences by answering calls live in English or Spanish, transferring calls, taking messages, collecting new client intake, addressing common questions, making outbound calls for you, and more, just like an in-house receptionist at a fraction of the cost. More importantly, they sound like they're sitting in your office. For a special offer, visit callruby.com/lawyerist2018 or call 844-715-7829. That's 844-715-RUBY.
Did you know that attorneys who accept online payments get paid 39% faster on average than those using traditional payment methods? With LawPay, the only payment solution offered through the ABA Advantage program, you can accept client payments online, via email, or in person. No equipment needed. Visit lawpay.com/lawyerist to sign up and get your first 3 months free. Trust the only payment solution developed for attorneys and recommended by 47 state bars. LawPay.
Okay, so we're back. So I guess I spoiled it right before the break, but what's number 2 on our list?
Number 2 is creating a system for collecting and using your client feedback in your marketing. And this can be really tricky. I know that sometimes lawyers are a little afraid of asking for the review, asking for that public feedback, because they know that sometimes clients are afraid to say that they used a particular lawyer or a service because of the nature. But this is something you can overcome by using a wider variety of review platforms, and also just making sure that you're only asking clients who did truly have a really good experience with you, and not asking too many times and kind of annoying people and getting them to maybe not leave such a favorable review by you bugging them.
So this is related to item number 1 is very discreet. Go claim your profile, fill it out completely, use good photos, you're good. This one is less about a specific tool and more about building a system. Although, like, the reality is we're going to be probably putting together a template in email, right?
Yes, I definitely recommend that you would want to have a template in your email that would be an easy system to ask for a review. Having a clickable image link that goes to your page on Yelp or your Google account to easily navigate people to where you want to get a review.
So basically, the task that you need to do is sit down and come up with an email that asks for reviews and has links to the places where people will go to make those reviews. And it's basically a copying and pasting operation after that. The part that you said that is really key and maybe a little bit harder is actually making sure you're asking the people who are more likely to give you a good review. How do you figure that out, and how do you segment those people out?
So you can tell that someone's had a good or a favorable experience with you if you achieved the outcome they were looking for, if they have thanked you and told you that they appreciate the work you did for them. Generally, if your interactions with them were positive, and if at the end of the day, everything took the appropriate amount of time, and like I said, the outcome was achieved that everyone was happy with.
And I think for me, the kind of way I look at it is this: so one, a short answer is there are tools also that can help you with this, right? So there are things like Ask Nicely and Get 5 stars and Yext reviews and Grade Us. You can use SurveyMonkey, but you're polling your clients, right? You're submitting a client feedback survey periodically to ask, right? And that's why, to me, it's the starting point for all of this is thinking about how you can make your practice more client centric. And Sam, you and I talked about this on a previous podcast, and I encourage people to go back and listen to that briefly. You've got to have the mindset of, I want to actually ask clients how they want to be communicated with. Ask them how they think you're doing. Ask them for feedback. Ask them for regular feedback. There's timing issues, whether you do that, on a more regular basis, depending on your practice, depending on the nature of the representation, or if you do it at the end of. But the answer to that is you've got to ask. So if you don't know, you got to ask. There are tools that can help you identify that in advance. So some of these tools will do things like at the close of a file, it'll fire off, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a family member? 8s, 9s, and 10s get directed to some kind of review profile. 1, 2, and 3s might send an email back to you saying, hey, this is an unhappy client. I need to reach out to them and understand more about why they're unhappy. But it's really about listening and putting the client first and finding ways that you can solicit their feedback, because these are some of the best ways, not only just to get positive testimonials, but also to identify where you can improve your service.
Yeah.
So there's two things going on here. And Kelly points out, like, for those lawyers who do have a good relationship with their clients and actually have a relationship, I think that's great. Like, you know, the ones to talk to ask for reviews, but also you can sense when somebody's unhappy and be proactive about getting feedback and trying to find out why they're unhappy and if there's anything you can do about that. Gyi points out that there's a lot of tools that you can use if you have volume and so you don't have a relationship with every client, or as I suggested, I think a lot of lawyers are wrong when they think about having the relationships they have with their clients. I think most lawyers don't have the kinds of relationships that they think they do have. It can help to do some objective and sort of less personal surveying to find out what they actually think, which gives you the option to A, ask for feedback from the people who have good things to say, and B, they don't have good things to say, you want to know why, and it lets you follow up. I think of this when your apps on your phone ask you for reviews, they ask you to review in the app what star rating you would give it. And if you give it a 4 or 5, they say, great, will you go leave a review in the App Store? And if you give a 1, 2, or 3, they send you to a contact form that asks you to tell them why you aren't happy. Or maybe it just says, do you like it or not? And if you say yes, then it asks you to leave a review. If it said no, then it asks you to tell them why. That's exactly what's going on there. They're trying to get good reviews out in public, but B, they're trying to give feedback so they can improve in private.
Exactly. And then I think what also matters is what you do after you get the reviews, whether they are positive or negative, reaching out or sending a message and saying, hey, thank you so much for your positive review, or I'm so sorry you had a negative experience with me. What can I do to help? Or I'm taking your feedback and I'm learning from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, good point. Like, the only reason to ask for reviews is if you're going to do something with them. Like, fluffing your public profiles is great and all, but the whole point is to take that feedback that you get seriously and then improve your practice from it.
Exactly. And in the context of marketing, to highlight the great service that you're giving. So a lot of times, where it's obvious that the outcome of the representation, everybody agrees was great, that doesn't always happen. And so a lot of times, it's, the thing that, I think we've talked about this before as well, but the thing that people know is they know what good service feels like. They know what it feels like to be treated with respect. They know what it feels like to be treated with dignity, and highlighting that stuff, whether you're doing it through them leaving a review or they volunteer to do a video testimonial or hosting reviews on your own site. Those are the things that help you distinguish yourself from the crowd, because now you're saying, hey, look, this is actual positive client feedback that I'm putting to work to demonstrate my, what do you want to call it, unique selling proposition, or what helps you stand out from all of the other legal marketing that just reads like, we're super aggressive, we fight really hard, we have 500 years of experience, and we went to the best law school.
Yes, reviews are so much more, or what you say about yourself as a lawyer is so much more effective if it comes from other people rather than just what you say about yourself.
So the to-do list here for lawyers basically has 3 elements. 1, ask people if they're happy or not. in a way that is a little bit more nuanced than that, but ask people if they're satisfied with the work that they've got from you or not. And you can do that with something as good as Net Promoter Score and sophisticated as that, or you can do that just with the blunt force asking. And it can be you, it can be an email, whatever, but you need to ask that first of all. And then, so that's piece number 1. And the second piece is for people who are satisfied, you want them to put their feedback in a public place to help your marketing. And for people who aren't satisfied, you want to follow up and find out why not and what you could have done to improve. At least how I like to ask it is, how could we have improved? So you're asking for a suggestion, and you may get people that are just complaining, and those complaints might be helpful, and you can turn them around and make them constructive. But you want to try and get constructive feedback. And you can do this with phone calls. You can do it with emails. There are lots of software systems that you can sign up for that will do it automatically for you. You need to do this. So that's piece number 2. So we got number 1, Google My Business. Number 2, create a system for collecting client feedback and either plugging it into your marketing or plugging it back into the way you build your client service model. Now, we've talked about your podcast clienting, and where can people go to find out more about that and subscribe to it?
You can either go to AttorneySync.com. We do have the podcast on our website. You can also find it on iTunes, just like every other professional podcast.
Cool. Say, if claiming your Google My Business profile, you've already done that. If you've already got a client feedback system and you feel like you're ahead of this game, then listen to episode 1, because you guys talk about the trends that will be shaping marketing in 2018. And so you talk about responsive websites, you talk about a bunch of other stuff, search trends, marketing trends, inbound client service. And so if you want the next level stuff, I think it's a good idea to go and listen to that podcast. And in addition, check the show notes for this, and we're going to have a white paper, 10 things you can do to improve your Google My Business profile from Gyi and Kelly, and Lawyerist Insiders can get that for free. You'll find the link in the show notes. So Gyi and Kelly, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Sam. Really happy to be here. And if anybody has questions or feedback, don't hesitate to contact us. We're always happy to help.
At AttorneySync.com. Thanks, guys.
Make sure to catch next week's episode of the Lawyerist podcast by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast app. And please leave a rating to help other people find our show. You can find the notes for today's episode on lawyerist.com/podcast.
The views expressed by the participants are their own and are not endorsed by Legal Talk Network. Nothing said in this podcast is legal advice for you.